Just a simple, easy daisy bracelet. Spring is here, so this is a perfect little daisy bracelet you can wear with your sundress. This is one of the most easiest methods when it comes to beading bracelet. I'm pretty sure most of you guys will find it pretty easy to make as well. Let's get right to it, shall we? What I'm using is about 1mm glass bead. What I'm using in between each flowers are these long glass beads. You'll also need a set of clasps. And of course, some needle and thread, and be sure to tie a knot at the end. First, you pick up a small tiny bead and loop it to the end of the thread. This is also considered as a core end. Go ahead, thread it through your needle. Gently close it with a jewelry plier. The bead is hiding in the center of the core ends. It's holding the thread in place. I'm using the long glass bead as a spacer in between each flower. Of course, you don't always have to use the exact same thing. Just use whatever is available to you. Now we're making the flower. Gather about 8 white beads. Go ahead, thread them to the end. Here, thread your needle to the first white bead and pull it through. You should have something that forms a little circle. Pick a center bead, which what I'm using is going to be a yellow. Line the bead to the center of the flower. Pay special attention to this part. Grab the bead to the opposite side where the thread is coming from, and then thread your needle through. You may need to readjust the beads to push it in place. Now we have one little flower ready. So I add one little spacer and continue picking up 8 small white beads. Remember to thread the bead all the way to the back before proceeding to the next step. We're going to see the step one more time. Once you have the circle pattern, pick up a center yellow bead and push it to the center. As you can see, always pick the bead on the opposite side where the thread is coming from. Just remember there are 3 beads on both sides that's not being threaded. Use the same method and make it into your desirable length. Once you have your length, go ahead and add the core end. I just opened the lids of the core ends wider so it's easier to work with. Just like from the beginning, I add a small bead to hold the thread in place. Tie a few knots around the bead so that it will be secured. One more time so it will be nice and secure. If you are satisfied of the way how the bracelet looks so far, you can cut the thread off and close the core end. Then the bracelet is finished. But as for me, I like to add a little tassel at the end of the bracelet, so I thread the needle back down through the core end. I thread a few beads to create length. I gather 8 small white beads to create the flower. I used the same method to create the flower. There you will see that I threaded through the first bead. Add the center bead and thread the needle through the opposite side bead. I added a small green bead to create a little bit more color and run the needle back up through where it was coming from. You're essentially running the needle back up to the core end and hiding the thread in between all the beads. Just be sure to use a small needle so it's easier to work around the beads. Just run your needle back up a few beads at a time. You'll get used to it once you do it for a few more times. And when you get to the end, poke the needle through the core ends again. I want to create one more string of tassel, so I run the needle through the bead that was hiding in the core end. This will help the thread in place while I run the needle through the core ends to create the second tassel. I applied the same methods from creating the first tassel and run the needle back up to the beads and onto the core ends. There you see that small little beads that's hiding in the center of the core end. Now tie a few knots onto the beads so that the thread will not come loose. I find it very easy to tie the knot this way, but you could do however way you want it, whatever floats your boat. Cut the thread off. Be sure to close the core end. And voila, it's finished. If you think adding the tassel is too much work, you can just skip this step. Either way, the bracelet is a very sweet and clean look. Don't you think it's perfect for the spring and the upcoming summer? Go ahead, give it a try. I promise once you get started on it, it's not that hard. I really do hope you guys like this daisy bracelet. Until next week, may you be happy.